Are the other guys joining us?
I hope so. I don't know, to be honest with you.
Because obviously, out of the group, Rob's the only one who wasn't a fan of the Boneyard match.
Rob's comments were quite interesting, actually, and
if we're going through our opinions of it,
I was quite fascinated to learn about the production values. Here, have a look at this. Right, this is the centerfold in the kids' magazine.
No.
So that's the centerfold in the kids' magazine. That might go on the wall, actually. I think, to be honest.
Nice.
I must admit the like when you had it sort of like when it was still in the magazine, it was half Lacey, half the Viking Raiders underneath. I was sort of I was just thinking some sort of weird genetic sort of mutation going on there. Sort of,
Another thing about the production of the Boneyard match is, do you know the druids that the OC summoned?
Yes.
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah.
Weren't actually NXT guys as they would have been in past. They were actors from the production company.
You know, it's funny because I watched it and I kind of thought to myself, I wondered at certain points, and I think they had to at least 3 times. They would have had to stop because obviously he didn't jump up. He had to get out of the grave and get behind him. He didn't have time to get up the ladder, so there was at least 2 or 3 times where they would have had to. But I did kind of think, I think it was very much done like a movie where it's probably like let stop and reset.
Yeah. Well, the druids were actors from the production company, so Taker, Styles, Anderson, and Gallows took time out of the shoot to teach them how to sell, so it looked more realistic.
Oh, right. Oh wow. Okay.
The guys in charge of the shoot were Michael Hayes and Triple H.
Oh right. Okay.
So that was their thing. But what I like is Taker can teleport from a grave to behind Styles, but he still has to use a ladder to get up onto the roof.
Well, it was quite. To be honest, I was a bit disappointed at one point when the camera caught behind the back of the grave, and you saw it was just a plywood sign. You could see the backing of the grave was out of it.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, that's a bit of a shame. And then I thought, well, maybe it's a bit disrespectful if they were in a real graveyard, actually. So maybe it's.
Yeah, so it took the because I was reading this in depth. So the production so WWE hired an outside production company, and they built a bit of a set, like a small set, and Triple H liked it so much they got them to do it on such a much bigger scale.
Oh wow!
And it was filmed. I think it was an 8-hour shoot, filmed between 10 at night and 5 in the morning. It was like that time frame, so it was filmed overnight. That's how long the shoot took.
Wow.
So they would have... so it was like a really in-depth thing. It wasn't like a typical WWE thing when they're like, yeah, this'll do.
Yes.
But because obviously they wanted to get it right, so they've hired someone else. And I thought, like, I know Rob's opinions are different, and I'd like to get his actual analysis of why he didn't like it. But to me, that was... I'd like to see more of that from WWE personally.
Yeah, I'd love to see more of that. I would love to see more of that. If the Funhouse, right? So tomorrow morning, I'm in work tomorrow, and I have to. Well, I say I'm in work. I'm not.
Sunday, isn't it?
Fair room. So I mean, I have to start at like 9 a.m. and that's when the call starts. So I'm probably going to get up at 6 or maybe about 5 or 6 in the morning, and I'm going to watch probably my favorite 2 matches in full. So the one I'm going to go for, like, first thing is going to be the Funhouse match. If it's anything like that, I'll be more than happy, because it looked very professional. It was beautiful, well shot, lovely lit. It was gorgeous. It looked really well.
Yeah. It was, and do you know when Taker smashed the window and cut his arm?
Oh, yes.
That wasn't meant to happen. The window wasn't actually meant to break.
Right, because I did see him with, I saw him with blood in his arm at one point.
So they stopped filming, and the production company were like, "What we can do is we can just flip the car around and do that spot again." So, but they were gonna, but then Taker was like, "Nah, it adds more, like it's almost as if it's a real fight."
So when he threw him on the hearse on the windscreen, was that meant to break?
I think that bit was, but it's when Taker missed the punch and shattered the window.
Yeah.
Because
I genuinely just thought that they were trying to bury Goldberg twice in the same night, but
yeah, all of the dialogue was, as I said earlier, was improvised as well. None of that was scripted, and then they started talking during it, and apparently originally Triple H and Michael Hayes were like what are you doing, sort of thing.
Okay.
And then AJ and Taker were like, if we're just in a graveyard punching each other, not like sort of trash talking each other, it's going to be a bit weird. Yeah. It's sort of the dialogue added more to it, to be honest.
Ah.
Yeah. It did, yeah.
And then they kept going, and then because Triple H knows what he's talking about, sort of, he liked it and got them to do it all the way through. So
cool.
I've got another quick intro, because this is I've read apparently the only match I've studied is the Boneyard match. Do you know the AJ's hand coming through?
Join us. Sorry, go ahead.
You know the AJ's hand coming through at the end?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Was only put there because Michael Hayes found a fake prosthetic hand on set, and him and Triple H wanted to use it somewhere, and it was Taker who suggested it at the end as sort of a homage to when he got buried alive and he came through at the end.
I thought about that because.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought that was weird because AJ Styles, he was like 6 feet under, wasn't he? He was like deep into the grave on his back, and then his hands sticking out of the grave like that. So he must have a really long arm or something like that.
But as well, the dirt that Undertaker dropped would not have even covered AJ. There wasn't that much.
No.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't have.
But yeah,
No.
So yeah, apparently Michael Hayes just found a prosthetic hand on set, and him and Triple H thought it would be funny to use somewhere in the match.
I mean, I have to credit them for doing that last. I mean, obviously, it was the Undertaker. It was the Undertaker's match. So I mean, if it was going to headline anything, it could at least headline the first half.
Yeah.
But the placement of the match was so well done, because the last thing I wanted to see was for you to go to the Boneyard and do that match, and then for you just to come back to the ring.
Yeah, imagine that, and then it's and now it's the main event, Goldberg versus Strowman.
That's it, yeah. And it did kind of. I thought the other matches on the cards. I mean, there's a couple of things that
they were decent enough. I think the matches, yeah.
I think they were very decent.
WrestleMania caliber, but in that scale though, if that was in a stadium, it would have been a bit meh. But I think in the fact that it was in a small stage, it was better.
To be honest, I mean, if I focus on maybe two matches, but if I start with Becky Lynch's one, right? So I liked what Becky Lynch did, but I think the audience not being there was nobody to kind of get that whole surprise ending where suddenly you think she's beaten and then she turns everything around.
Yeah.
And that fell on silence, and I thought that was a real because it was a good match. I mean, and I thought Becky Lynch going from headlining WrestleMania and winning those two belts in front of 80,000 fans to go to being on the first night in an empty arena, and her match it finished all right as far as they were concerned, but there was no audience.
I personally wasn't a fan of that ending.
Okay.
But I thought Shayna should have won.
It's not necessarily that. I just think whoever went over should have sort of went over a bit strong. It's by no means, in my opinion, the end of that feud. That feud's gonna go on well in advance, and I think Shayna will
she will win at some point.
Win at some point, but I just didn't like the ending.
No. Have I
Becky
told anyone on air the story I have about Shayna Baszler, where I nearly got beaten up by Shayna Baszler? Have I told anyone that story yet?
No.
No. Download last year. Lucas can attest to this if he was here. I don't know why, it was quite sunny, so I don't know why I was wearing a black hoodie with the hood up and sunglasses because it was quite sunny. Don't know why I had the black hoodie on in the first place. And I was just like looking around at my surroundings, and what caught my eye was two people with NXT jumpers on, or hoodies or whatever you want to call them.
Oh,
And I thought, oh, who's that? And I thought, oh, that's Tony Storm. And I thought, oh my god, it's real Tony Storm. Should I talk? Or should I not? And then I felt a pair of eyes like glaring at us at this direction here, and I was like, and it was Shayna Baszler, and I'm like, never mind, I will move. I thought, if I go any closer to them, I will get beaten up by a woman. So that didn't happen.
Yeah, not Shayna Baszler, but Tony Storm. I went to. Can you guys remember Empire?
Yeah,
So I went to one of the shows there. I think I was dropping Oliver Barrett off actually because I think he was on the card. So as he's left, like I watched the show, and I was sitting at the side, out of the way. You guys know Steel Social Club. You've got the raised bit, and then the benches at the side. I was sitting on the benches, like near the back, out of the way, minding my own business, and then someone out the corner of my eye caught my attention, and like, do you know when you're glancing and you're like, who's that? Like, I was like, I know that person. It was only Tony Storm sitting next to us watching the show.
Wow.
No.
Drinking wine, but obviously on her day off. But I was for about 5-10 minutes. I was sitting there going, I know this person. Like, how do I know this person? Like, because it was a decent crowd. I'm like, it could just be anyone. And then like, do you know when you're like you're discreetly trying to look, but I couldn't make it out to her in the end. I was just like, then I was like, oh, in my head obviously, I was like, oh, it's Tony Storm. It was weird because like, if she was there, why not book her?
Yeah, that's the thing. Why would you not do that?
Because she wasn't signed. It was before the time of NXT UK, so they couldn't book her.
Burns, though, isn't it, more than anything else? It's like whether or not she's prepared to kind of get in the ring and the circumstances and you know how and she figures, book her, you can come in and do something, but it's like, does it almost take away if you have a star that's like too big? Does it take hard and all that? But I mean, you know,
she's there. You might as well inquire.
Yeah. I know this is. I mean, they could have inquired. I mean, I know Empire did a show last year, just after they were in the studio. Obviously, sadly, they sort of had to wind things up shortly thereafter. But they did come back for one show earlier this year.
Yeah,
that was the Head with Hall one, wasn't it?
Yeah,
right. That's right. But they were in the Spanish Announce Table studio about a week or two before that. They came in to see us.
Headworth Hall is a dead venue. I've wrestled 3 shows there. I did one show which was under the Rad Pro banner, organised by Kieran Swinney. It was for young Frankie Sherwood, a little boy who had cancer, and it was raising money to go towards paying for his treatment. And the venue was sold out then, and we raised over £1,000 that night for the charity. But apart from that, like any other wrestling show that's just a wrestling show, not for charity, in that venue, I have not seen pull a decent crowd. And it's the same with the Point in Sunderland.
Which is a shame, because the Point did a show for...
Defiant?
Defiant.
Defiant were there.
UCW ran there quite a few times in the early days. Empire have ran there.
The photographs and the videos I saw for Defiant, the venue was fairly packed.
Yeah, but that's Defiant. Like, they've got, you know what I mean? But it's like local shows they're just getting a renovation as well, the Point. £2 million renovation. And later this year, depending on how the pandemic goes, UCW are scheduled to have 2 shows there.
That's fairly cool.
So hopefully, you know, it draws, because it's in a really central location. You've got the bus station less than a minute walk away.
Yeah.
And
No,
you know,
it's a great venue. Obviously, this is the point in Sunderland for those watching us in Arkansas in the United States who have no idea.
And Hedworth Hall is in South Shields.
Indeed. Again, for those in Ohio in the United States who have no idea what we're talking about, or indeed in Russia, I believe I've heard we're very popular in the Philippines. I don't know why, but apparently quite a lot of people tune in to Nova Radio. No, genuinely, quite a lot of people tune in radio through the Philippines.
I probably have an explanation for that, but
that's not.
Yeah. Well, with our Instagram page, if it's set to being a business account, you can actually see where the majority of your viewers are from.
I don't believe it is. May have to get that changed, but
because mine is just for the purposes I'm nosy and I like to see. It tells you that it tells you like the percentage of like male to female audience you get, the age range, and like the countries like where you're most popular. So for me, it's the UK, then the US, and then somewhere like Russia
Norway or something.
Do you know what? I'll keep the video link open and I'll quickly have a check for you. Am I still here? Hello.
Yep, still here.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, one match I didn't think even needed to be on the card was Elias and King Corbin. What's the point?
Can I say though? Can I disagree with that? Because there are two things about that. I like Elias, and I like what he does, and I
me too.
Like that he was there.
Yeah.
But why didn't he just hit him with a guitar, throw him in the ring, someone ring the bell, and pin him? Now, it's WrestleMania. We normally get at least one or two squash matches. There were no squash matches last night. Why wasn't that just over within 20 seconds? The nearest thing to a squash match, the shortest match for my money, was the Goldberg-Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
So why the hell didn't Elias just hit him with the guitar, which he did, get him in the ring, pin him, that's it, end of story. That would have been, but I mean, it was nice to see Elias there, but I would have rather sort of seen something like that.
It felt like, I've said this before, but it felt like, you know, when you do GM mode on like one of the video games, and you've got like some spare wrestlers that you don't know what to do with, but you still want to use them. It felt like they said, oh, well, this guy and this guy don't have a mask, that's a face, that's a heel, we'll put them together. That's what it felt like for me.
I think, given if it was not like I say normal Mania, like Mania with a crowd, the big venue and everything, I think Elias taking that fall, it would have written him off TV and there would have been a surprise return there. But I think because they're limiting who they're letting in, they couldn't do that. I think that was their original plan.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing as well there, isn't it? Like, there was no run-ins, no surprising. Like, obviously you had one person doing the interviews backstage, which were potentially pre-recorded at another time anyway. Other than Paul Heyman's bit, which I loved, and I loved his delivery of that, other than Paul Heyman's bit, none of the backstage stuff seemed to be of any use. I mean...
The only bit...
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
I was going to say all I kept seeing was ads for cars and phone companies, and it was like, what the hell is the point of this? Like, there was nothing. There was no, like, here's Ric Flair in isolation, here's Hogan sending a special message in Miami, you know. And I thought that was, they could have done something like that.
Yeah, true, that's not what I was going to go into, but the only thing like that was when the most annoying presenter that they've ever had, Gronk, and what's his name, Mojo Rawley, doing their bit, and then Truth's like, oh, I need to hide with the title, so you hide in between two people who could basically take the title off you, and you're saying you need to hide.
And also, Gronk delivered the worst forearm I've ever seen, and R-Truth took the loss to it. Anyway, I've got my top locations up, and the top 5 countries that I'm most popular in is the United Kingdom, the then the United States,
Yes.
Oh,
then Australia,
Wow.
right.
then the Netherlands, and then Poland.
Right.
So Kendall's gone international.
Do you know, I mean, Australia might be a bit of a stretch with the, but when things kind of return to normal, you could look at perhaps getting on the ferry over to the Netherlands. It's easily done.
Easy.
There's a half decent scene over there, actually.
There's a decent scene in Poland as well, actually. I spent a couple of months over in Poland a couple of years ago, and I visited a couple of shows. What about backstage interviews and different stuff like that? This was before the show, but I thought Stephanie spoke particularly well, and that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah,
that for me was a really nice touch.
I appreciate that. Yeah, for sure.
It was all right, but it did make me laugh. I kind of thought, I was like, this kind of loses a bit of magnets,
Yeah, I didn't like the introduction as well, like the opening package introduction. I just thought it was too long and too jumbled.
That didn't
like the voiceover guy and stuff.
Yeah, it didn't fit with the show. But it was the guy doing the terrible Johnny Depp impression, and it had like the giant crab and everything, and the octopus and stuff. It just didn't fit with the rest of it. And obviously wanted a big pirate ship sort of set, didn't there? And obviously it couldn't happen, so it's a shame.
I feel sorry for Kairi Sane as well, because she's the pirate princess.
Exactly, that was the whole thing. That was
she totally dropped that last night as well, though. She didn't come out with her...
the wheel thing, yeah.
The wheel, she came up with an umbrella
why
instead.
Didn't they have Paul Burchill swing in and pin
tonight?
For the title?
Tonight.
Are they, when they do it tonight, are they going to do another intro and have another big thing?
Probably. It'll probably be the same intro, I imagine.
It's funny though. Has anybody seen the show Secret Millionaire? Well, they did.
Yes.
It's about 2 years ago in the US.
They did the Stephanie McMahon one, didn't they?
Stephanie McMahon was on it, but in that episode, you actually see Vince McMahon talk to Stephanie in Vince's office, and without the makeup and the camera they're using, Vince looks so much older. And I was shocked by how old he actually looked in comparison.
That was a few years ago now, though, wasn't it?
It was a few years ago. And I kind of wonder, I was kind of like, why wasn't Vince, I would like Vince to maybe do an intro from his home, something that he might have recorded him and Linda sitting there going, welcome to WrestleMania. Because obviously it's his event, it's, and I mean...
You never know what's going to happen tonight. You don't know what they've got in store. What did you guys think of Sami Zayn, Daniel Bryan then?
Good match. It was a bit all over the place. Would have worked better with a bit of a crowd because it was a bit noisy, wasn't it? It was a bit like with the four guys around the ring, the 5 guys around the ring. It was a bit noisy.
I mean, as Sami said himself, there are very few men, and to be fair, that was probably a history-making thing. There are very few men who've walked in to WrestleMania Intercontinental Champion and also walked out. So it was nice from that point of view to kind of, presumably him retaining. I mean, presumably he's going to keep it for a little while. He won't be dropping the belt on Raw or something. So
it's nice to see Zayn back in the ring. After because he's been medically cleared for a while, but WWE management like him in his new sort of management role.
Yeah.
I like that Intercontinental belt. Looks really nice. I like
that progress style belt.
That match for me was a bit sad because it's not because of the match. It's just the guys on the outside, Nakamura, Cesaro, Gulak, are all
great.
Really talented guys and should have been on the main card.
It should have been a multi-man match. I think that should have been like a 6-man ladder match. I think rather than a
Gulak versus Cesaro was pre-show. That could main card any other show.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good match. It was only about a minute long, but it was good.
Yeah, it went under 10.
To be fair, the way that they were used there added a fair bit to Sami Zayn's sort of position and how he's working at the minute, and it added a bit extra to the story of that particular match. I mean, I know it doesn't do much for the guys themselves, and their profile, but they did a very good job at emphasizing that Sami Zayn was like going to do anything and everything to avoid the actual fight, and until the last minute.
To me, he's finished. Obviously, they called it the Hoover kick, but to me that was just a big boot because to me the Hoover kick is them set up in the corner, and him running and hitting it. And on another note for that match, to me personally, Cesaro in any other company would be a top guy and a world champion in any other company.
Absolutely.
I'm sure he would be, definitely.
I think WWE have missed the gun on him. I mean, it's never too late, really, with the world of WWE, but they've had so many chances.
Yeah,
because he was
trying with him though, haven't they? Because they brought him in as the Swiss rugby player guy. He was somebody's boyfriend, and then they were like, "Well, what do we do with him now?" And then he was doing the King of Swing bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, and then he
was
joined
kind of a good
with
push for him, and then he was with Sheamus, and
because then he joined the Real Americans with Jack Swagger.
Yes, yeah.
And then he won the Andre Battle Royale, and then the next night on Raw was announced as a new Paul Heyman guy.
Yeah.
And then they just dropped that after like a month.
It was a bit weird. Didn't they have Neale in at one point?
He's probably done. The thing is, though, Cesaro is a company man. Like he just is. But any other company, to be fair, it's the same with Nakamura.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was like the John Cena in Japan, wasn't he? And then when he came over here, he came over to WWE, I should say, nothing.
Well, he got a push though. He
Oh, he did for a bit, yeah, of course he did when he won the Rumble and that, but nothing really happened after that.
As soon as he left NXT as well, they dropped the King of Strong Style and started calling him the Rock Star, or the artist known as. Yeah, the artist known as.
Yeah,
I'm kind of surprised
some people
with Nakamura, to be honest, because I kind of expect to see him turning heel on Zayn at some point and taking. I think he's good enough to have the Intercontinental title himself, and I mean, like.
Well, he did, didn't he?
You say yourself, he just seems to be standing in the back, nodding and smiling politely, and it's like, why is such a big star? I almost think, I mean, as much as I like Sami Zayn and his theme music and all that, and he's good fun, and we tried to get him on the show when he was in Newcastle last year visiting Pac, apparently. And you know what? Look, as great as he is, I kind of think it's like, well, isn't Shinzei like the bigger deal or something? Why isn't...
I think...
Can't do promos, that's what he can't...
Yeah,
that's the only problem with him,
it.
he can't do promos.
And it's the same with Cesaro. Cesaro's not the greatest on the microphone. Whereas Zayn's just good at being the whiny little...
That's why Zayn's a good talker, so he's good for them both. So really, they should be a tag team, and he should be the manager, really.
I think that's what WWE are going for, which is why they kept him out of the ring for so long. But I think he's went to management multiple times and said he wants to be an active competitor and not just a mouthpiece. Yeah. Although he's a great mouthpiece, he's great. One match. We brushed over it quickly with Asuka and Kairi Sane. I thought that was all right. The Kabuki Warriors were just too noisy for me. That just really annoyed me.
Yeah, it was a good match. I thought they're all big personalities, and they all had a good fun. And I thought, oh, this is good. That they're doing the best that they can. It's a good match. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing without a crowd. Yeah. And I thought, if it carries on like this, great. And I felt like that was the only match that felt like it could have worked in a stadium.
Yeah. There was the two spots where one of them was getting pinned and they hit their finishers onto the respective person who's pinning them. They were a bit slow. They could have been a bit quicker because you saw the one where the insane elbow, the ref counted 1, 2, and then there was like if you watch it back at some point, there was quite a considerable pause between the two. It could have easily been a 3 count. Yeah. And it was the same with the Twisted Bliss, although Alexa Bliss was a little bit quicker because she gets less height on the twist. But they were just a bit slow.
I thought that was a little long. I know most of the opening matches at WrestleMania are. I did think that seemed to go on quite a bit, but I have to say I like the fact that they picked up the win at the end. You know, I was very That's
I'm a big fan of Nikki Cross. She's such a lovely person as well.
Yeah, I've met her before. She's great, isn't she?
I hope. Well, I said it on the show last week when we were talking about the build up to Mania that all 4 of those women could easily be main event scene for the women's division,
Of course,
because they're all so immensely talented.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Asuka. She's a great. It's just personal preference, really. Also, are they named after the Great Kabuki, or have they just picked up Kabuki because it sounds Japanese?
I think they named after the Great Kabuki because I'm sure they cleaned it up that it wasn't meant to be racist. It was meant to be like a Kabuki warrior, like kind of like a Japanese warrior.
Because Paige named them one week on telly, didn't she? She was the one who introduced them.
Because I think, like, you know, as you say yourself, Liam, I mean, they're very, very 4 talented women. I think when you're going to have a match like that opens a WrestleMania, that opens any kind of event of that magnitude, it's good to have those people because they could headline their own event. So they might as well, like, kind of get talented people. Because I think if you opened with a match that didn't grip people, you'd kind of feel what the hell was going on. I mean, if they'd opened with like Braun Strowman and Goldberg, you might have thought, no, I don't know, because it seems like last year the whole Seth Rollins Brock Lesnar thing, I think that was only done out of necessity. I think that was done because Brock had insisted on it being done, and so fair enough. But it never, like, it didn't feel like it should have been the opening match at WrestleMania, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
I've left speechless. What's happening?
Yeah.
It's the lack of sleep. That's what it is.
That's it. Honestly, once we finish recording, I'm gonna head upstairs for a nap. I am. You can't see, but next to me,
there's Monster Energy to keep yourself awake. Don't tell me you're not doing. Are you really? Oh my.
There's about 5 empty cans surrounding me from through the night. I have a couple of bottles of Coke. These are. I'm not going to drink all of this. Yeah, I know. To be fair, once we finish recording, I'm going to head straight upstairs and sleep until Mania tonight. For
That's dedication right there, you know, on the level of Damien Stone dedication, actually, to be honest.
I must admit, last night during the Wrestle Talk stream, I was starting. My eyelids were starting to get a bit heavy, and then of all the places to fall asleep, about 2.5 minutes into the Will Ospreay match at the Wish one, I was out like a light and woke up just in time for the start of Mania.
Yeah. Well, what did you guys think of the Universal Championship match?
It was what needed to be done. Goldberg is basically, it was like a passing of the torch, because Goldberg is famous for having those short matches where he just hits a spear and a jackhammer, pins the guy, that's it. I don't like Goldberg at all. I think he's a gimmick. I think Goldberg, the same as Sandman, is a gimmick. He just basically, all he does is goes in, does one move and pins them. I know Brock Lesnar made a career of that a few years ago, but when Goldberg did it, it was just a gimmick.
Neale, I agree with you. I think despite what Ragnar, the Intercontinental Champion of the Northeast, says, Goldberg, you know, we can't be forgiven. It's not just for the kids. Is Goldberg retired now? Have we seen the end of that? Can we put that
He's in the Hall of Fame. You're supposed to be retired if you go into the Hall of Fame. You're not meant to be an active wrestler and go in the Hall of Fame. It doesn't make sense.
Theory, yes.
Yeah. Again, Neale, I agree 100% with what you said. I'm also not a big fan of Goldberg. He's never been designed for long matches. The only time I can think of him attempting to have a long match was when he ended Bret Hart's career.
He's still fighting that one, actually, but go on.
But at the same time, I don't think Strowman was the guy to give the belt to. I get it's the passing of the torch of the new guy who's going to go and destroy everybody.
The new squash match guy, yeah.
But now, to me, everybody's just going to say, because well, someone put on Facebook after the show, like a well-deserved Strowman, and I just commented saying like, how was it deserved? And they were like, well, what do you mean? I was like, because until last week he didn't have a spot on the card.
Yes.
And all of a sudden he's in a Universal Championship match. I get it's what they need to be done, but for me, it's quite. Oh well, I hope WWE prove me wrong, but it's quite blatantly obvious that as soon as Reigns comes back, Reigns is.
Oh, it is. Of course,
Reigns is winning the belt.
They wanted that. They wanted that moment, like the minute, like literally the minute Reigns. The first thing he did was he probably called his mother and went, "Mom, I'm cancer free." And the second thing he did was call Vince McMahon. And the minute he made that call, Vince went, WrestleMania, we're having you win that title. That's what we want.
Because since he's it's been a build up because since he came back, he's been in the mid card.
Yes.
Sort of the fans have been slowly warming to him because he hasn't been pushed down our throats.
Yes.
He's turned into a good kind of journeyman in a way, hasn't he? He only had one title match in the last year.
And I think if Reigns was still showing up at Mania, that match last night would have been tomorrow.
I think
it would have been Reigns and
Mania for his benefit.
Yeah, I also think it would have probably been the same style squash match. I think they would have just let Reigns squash Goldberg instead.
I think that's what would have happened. I don't know that he would have done 4 spears and all that, but I think he would have done something. And I think they wanted that. And again, though, because there was no audience, even if Roman had been there to the best will in the world, it's like it still wouldn't have meant what it meant to have Roman clutching the title, tears running down his face. You would have wanted the audience there to appreciate what that moment would have been.
Absolutely.
Because if he's come back from cancer to being back on top of WWE,
I mean, basically, what the WWE have done by the looks of this is pretty much what the NWA did back in the 80s, where they stuck the title on Ronnie Garvin for a couple of weeks until the person that wanted his champion was available. They've basically got Braun in there as a transitional champion because they wanted.
It's a shame for him in a way. His big moment kind of quashed by this. The fact that he's obviously what they call a paper champion.
Yeah.
They could even have Edge win it, couldn't they? Really, they could have had Edge.
They could have easily made the Firefly Funhouse match a #1 contenders match to add a bit more intrigue into that. The winner of that shows up because me and Damien were like Damien and myself and the others were talking about this last week. Damien said even have Lesnar Lesnar Galloway, sorry. Is it McIntyre? It's McIntyre. Lesnar McIntyre first night have McIntyre go over and Goldberg in the ring with no opponent, and this is what Damien said, and have Lesnar come out second night and just go straight for another title.
That would be a good idea actually, but.
And then that gets Lesnar back on the blue brand where he belongs.
That makes too much sense, though, doesn't it?
That's true.
WWE. But if obviously I know as I was saying earlier, with Triple H having control of the Boneyard match, it looks like Vince has took a bit more of a backseat with this Mania.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And was a bit more of an NXT flavour to it, wasn't there? Yeah.
And do you think that's with it? Not being live, so Vince has sort of thought to himself, "Oh, it's not as important."
Oh, right, okay.
I don't think. I kind of think, to be honest, I think it's Vince's age, and depending on his own health, depending on the responsibilities he has, I think it's kind of an opportunity. Because I think Stephanie doing that introduction to WrestleMania, her getting to have that moment. That's his passing of the torch to go, look, we have to do it eventually. And he'd rather probably see that happen in his lifetime than get to a stage where he dies and then just by de facto that she presents the next one. So I think for Vince, it's possibly a nice segue to go, look, we've been planning for all this. You found yourself a husband, you've raised some kids with him, you love the business. Shane loves it, but he's not so much into it as you are. So you guys, you're going to be my legacy as far as this company is concerned.
Well,
and Vince would rather sit back and watch that.
An interesting fact, an interesting thing on that, which I was reading, is you were just on about that, and Shane loves the business, but not as much. But when Vince's time does come, I was reading that Wall Street will only accept Shane as director, chairman of WWE.
Really?
Right.
Because he's the only one who's actually owned and ran businesses successfully. So, like, Wall Street won't be happy with Stephanie as sole owner of WWE or Triple H, because they've never, like, ran businesses like, you know what I mean? Along those lines. So Wall Street are allegedly only going to be happy if Shane takes over control.
I wonder, is that the reason that he came back then? Because as far as I was aware, he bought himself out, he'd moved away, he was doing something with the golf where when, I think it was Padraig Harrington won the PGA Tour, the first person whose hand he shook on television after he won it was Shane McMahon.
Yeah.
So it was a big thing about the fact that Shane...
Didn't he own a Chinese broadband company as well? Or something?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And he was in NCIS as well.
I wonder when they come back, basically to just appease the board, and whether it's a case of, look, Shane is back, but Shane doesn't actually... I mean, look, let these guys say what they want. The thing is... Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, I think... Sorry, go ahead.
That's right. I was saying, if the thing is, I mean, if he comes back, he'll be managing at arm's length. Sorry, I cut you off, Wayne. Sorry.
All right.
What is,
no, I was going to say the same thing. I think, like as you say, he's came back, and I think once Vince's time does come, he'll sort of be in Wall Street eyes, the boss. But I think Shane himself will let Stephanie and Triple H sort of run it.
I'm not a financial analyst. I'm not an economic expert. I couldn't understand one side of the Dow Jones from the FTSE. I couldn't care in one sense. But I do kind of think, like, does WWE even need to be trading on the stock market? I suppose, yes, it does because of the money it makes. But when you say, Wall Street won't be happy with anyone but Shane, possibly true, absolutely. Again, does WWE really need to be on the stock market? Would it not make more economic sense for WWE to pull back from investing as much money? Have they not built up the nest egg? So, but I mean,
I would hope so,
yeah. In all honesty, I mean, there was a time when, yes, a company's power and wealth and value was judged by being on the stock market or judged by being on the internet, and they kind of did that at the time. But I think now, they've kind of made their money. I mean, the fact that they can afford to spend the money they did on Becky Lynch's truck just goes to show, I mean, when they have the money to pay for something like that.
I have a theory about that truck, is that it was meant for the stadium, and it was going to come into the stadium and park outside the ring, let her out. But also, every time they have a vehicle, they always bring out the toy of the vehicle with a figure. Like when they had Braun Strowman in the ambulance, and they had Stone Cold in the Stone Cold in the beer truck, and Kurt Angle in the milk truck.
It does seem like, I mean, I don't know if you noticed this one, but it sounded like when the horn was tooting on it, that sounded like it'd been dubbed over with. I mean, that sounded like it'd been dubbed over with a harmonica. It sounded like someone a mouth organ.
Can I say something else? In America, they don't drive on the left side of the road, they drive on the right, and she got out of the cab on the camera right, which was in the left side. So actually, she would have got out of the cab on the passenger side. She would not have been driving.
Nah, it's a British truck.
Was it really?
I think so.
No, come on. It was not.
No, I think it was. I genuinely think it was. I'm going to have to watch it back because I'm sure when it got out, you could, like, when she got out and the camera panned round, you could see in the cab and the steering wheel, I'm sure, was on the side she got out of.
All tinted, so I was looking
to
go drive.
I'm sure she was driving because I think if I remember, I was so tired I might have been delusional, but I'm sure when she opened the door to get out and the camera panned round, you could see in the cab for a split second, and I'm sure the steering wheel was on her side.
I'm fairly confident, though. I'm fairly confident the Undertaker drove his own motorbike. I can say that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that is actually the Undertaker's own motorbike as well.
Yeah.
I like this ring gear, by the way. It was like homemade, like ring gear. I liked it.
Yeah. I reckon he just wears that on day-to-day basis. He's just rocked up full of shit and going, yeah, I'll wear this.
Or something down at Walmart.
Well, they actually...
The thing customized ring gear, that seems to be the thing now, doesn't it?
Apparently next to where the production crew set up the big set for the Boneyard match, there was a nice stretch of like a highway, as the Americans would call it, and they wanted the Undertaker's entrance for him to sort of shoot along the highway on his motorbike and come in, and I think they shot a bit of that, but then the production company said to WWE, they were like, we don't actually own that road, so you're gonna have to get whoever's permission to use that and stuff. So in the end, they just shot Undertaker's entrance as it was, which was great, by the way.
Yeah.
What do you think of his new music?
Was that a Metallica wannabe band, or was it Metallica?
No, it was actual Metallica.
Was it Metallica? Right.
Yeah, because Metallica tweeted.
That's it. Yeah, it was Metallica's Now We're Dead.
Metallica used to hate WWE as well. Do you remember that when they hated WWE for using their music without permission?
That's right. I mean, they hated a lot of people at that time, to be fair, for using their music without permission. But yeah, I remember there was a big thing at the time about, and then there was the whole thing about they said that Sandman couldn't have Enter Sandman when he came over, and there was a big copyright thing about that, and there was a case against ECW. And then somebody else wanted to use Master of Puppets, and they wouldn't let them do that either. So, yeah, but it's nice. I was kind of listening, going, "That's James Hetfield." And to be fair, as much as I adore Metallica, the latest album I've not listened to at all. So I have a suspicion that that's on Hardwire. It's on the latest album, but it's the one album in Metallica I've not listened to at all, really.
You can borrow mine if you want. I've got it. You can borrow it.
Yeah, I will do, absolutely. I mean, when we get back in the studio, I'm going to be 100% wanting to play that song, Now I'm Dead. Just roaring it on Nova,
Yeah, Damien, just link it in now, yeah? No.
That's absolutely, yeah. Buy our music, Metallica needs you.
Yeah.
I'm a bit disappointed they didn't use Big Evil. They didn't use... What's it go like? This is your judgment day. That one.
Yeah, I think that's because, and I've referenced this the last couple of shows, is because Undertaker, although it's clearly a homage to the American Badass yesterday, I think he doesn't want it to be the American Badass. He wants it to be a sort of more, as Lucas keeps saying, a more like human-like version, sort of like Mark the Undertaker Calloway.
Well, let's
just
be fair. Anything that means the Undertaker doesn't have to go back to that ginger hair is good for me. That's fine.
Okay.
Obviously, I mean no offense whatsoever. I just mean the Undertaker have ginger hair. That's all I meant.
No, I enjoyed it. One match I liked when I saw it, and it was a good match, but the concept was messed up. How can you have a triple threat match for a tag team title?
Because
that was weird.
I'll tell you how you can. Because apparently the rumor on the street is that the Miz was affected by current events, directly affected by that particular disease, by that pandemic, and turned up anyway to try and wrestle, and declared that to someone and was basically shocked and sent home for it. So at the 11th hour, they had to come up with an idea, and I fully adore John Morrison for giving that a go. I thought the ending, again, would have worked better with an audience, but it kind of reminded me of that Full Tilt event I was at a few months ago where the belt fell off.
Do you know what cheapened the ending for me is the sound of Velcro ripping rather than the press studs. And I don't know why WWE have done that. The only belt on the main roster with press studs that are still press stud is the women's tag titles.
Yes.
Every other belt's Velcro.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because
apart from when Lesnar gets the title, because then his goes back to press studs. I remember when he had it, and then anyway, the person who won off him the next night, it was Velcro.
It was Seth Rollins.
Yeah, Seth Rollins. So yeah, it was press studs, and then the next night it was Velcro.
It's funny though, because one thing I'm learning about WWE now that they have no audience and you can pick up every bit of sound, I'm finally hearing how much abuse the refs give back to the superstars. You know, when the refs like, you worry about yourself, man. You worry about yourself.
That woman ref was in Corbin's match was amazing.
Yeah, that was really good.
I think she's one of the best refs WWE have.
You worry about yourself. You worry about yourself, buddy.
You worry about yourself. I've got me.
like when Earl Hebner used to stand up to Triple H back in the day. You know, it's like Earl Hebner will not take this physical abuse.
God.
Earl Hebner's still refereeing.
He is.
Is he with Impact now?
Yeah.
No, he's at AEW.
He is. Yeah.
He must be nearing 100. Come on.
He's gonna end up like that.
He's not looking. He's not looking any younger. Like, I know he's obviously getting older, but he's looking.
Where's his brother?
Sorry? Oh, he had a brother, didn't he?
Yes, because that was two Earl Hebner at one point, didn't he? Yeah.
His son's also a ref, and his son was a ref in Impact the same time as him.
Yeah.
Earl Hebner's 70 years old, by the way.
70.
Yes, 7 or 70. Yeah.
I know that Bischoff's Eric Bischoff's son was a ref for TNA.
And then he turned into a wrestler.
Yeah, because they had a big problem with they wouldn't pay him, and they wouldn't pay Bischoff, and that's why Bischoff had a big falling out with TNA, because he didn't get the money he was promised from them, and it was him and his son. Yeah.
Oh, so what was his name again? Was he called Slick or something like that?
Sorry?
Wasn't he called Slick or something like that? He had a weird name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember that, and his gimmick was he was an ex-referee, so he had like ripped referee shirt on. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Because I know obviously as Liam takes another swig of Coke to keep himself awake, which fair play to you. But I know
zero sugar.
That's it. I mean that match where do you remember Invasion a few years ago where Earl Hebner went against Neale? What was it?
Neil
Patrick.
Yeah.
I was going to say where he went against Neil Patrick Harris, but obviously that didn't happen.
I met your mother.
I would have paid to see that though.
Yes.
What the hell is Neil Patrick Harris doing here?
Can anyone remember Lil Nate?
Oh yeah, Charles Robinson.
Was that the referee who was like Ric Flair's prodigy or something?
Yeah. It's Charles Robinson, WWE's.
Yes.
Oh, is that who it was?
Yeah.
I'm sure I saw him in the last week or two. He's still kicking about and reffing for them.
He reffed yesterday. He reffed the women's match, I think.
Well, I mean, if you get an opportunity, go back and watch WrestleMania 5, because there is a certain young individual who got his on-screen debut, and I think it's the Warlords match at WrestleMania 5. The referee is Shane McMahon, and it's the first time he was ever on television for WWF, that he was like on television properly, where it wasn't just, this is Vince's kids, you know, when he's there waving.
Yeah.
He was actually like a teenager at the time. He was a ref at WrestleMania 5.
Because Stephanie used to model the T-shirts as well for the websites. Yeah.
Wow.
It was a weird time. When you were like, when you said someone, a young star getting the debut, I thought you were going to reference when Rob Van Dam was picked from the crowd to kiss the $1 Million Man's boot.
No, I wasn't, but neither was I also going to reference the fact that Diamond Dallas Page drove the Honky Tonk Man to the ring, and he drove the Cadillac at WrestleMania 7. Or that
CM Punk was one of John Cena's Mafia.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
is
all the-
amazing.
Or that Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks were the two
And
girls,
Alexa Bliss.
and Alexa Bliss with Triple H at Mania
Yeah,
30.
that was good.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Bloody
No
hell.
gold masks on, yeah.
yeah. Or that the guys who wore the skull masks for Triple H's entrance a year later were all NXT guys, including Finn Balor, Enzo Amore at the time, a couple of other guys, and referees who weren't reffing at the time.
Wow.
There you go.
There you go. You could almost make a list out of that, couldn't you? Somebody
Yeah.
to have done that. A list of like future
Probably.
superstars who
Well, look at all of Adam Rose's rosebuds.
Yeah.
Braun Strowman was one.
Yeah.
Becky Lynch.
Becky Lynch.
James Ellsworth.
Yeah.
Elias.
One of the vaudevillains.
What's his name? Gotch. Simon
Gotch.
Gotch.
Carmella was one.
Carmelo was in it, yeah. There's
It's
loads. I think everyone who was a Rosebud's done something better since then.
Yeah. Hasn't Adam Rose retired from wrestling now?
Technically,
Yeah.
yeah. Wasn't he called Leo Kruger? He went back to his old gimmick where he was like kind of a manhunter sort of thing. And I think he's properly retired now. Yeah.
He hung the boots up some point middle of last year, I think it was.
Yeah.
Because I saw him on an indie show and he was just incredibly jacked.
Yeah, that was. I'm sure I've seen the same footage that you're mentioning there, because I think they announced him under his regular name of like under his shoot name of Ray Leppard, and he was properly built, and I was thinking, well, he looks like he's got another run in him here. What's it seems like, I mean, unless obviously there's something like that's stopping him that we can't see.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, but now apparently he hung the boots up middle of last year, which is a shame really, because back when he was still doing the Leo Kruger gimmick in NXT, I thought there was a lot of potential there, a lot of potential for that.
Yeah.
Just going through Facebook, and the man known as Matty Mayhem agrees that that the Boneyard match is an absolute masterpiece. He says unpopular opinion, but I feel it's a popular opinion at this point.
Yeah, and I know Lou Nixon posted after the show last night that he thinks it's one of the best things WWE have done in a while.
I agree. Why haven't they done this a long time ago? Because I'm kind of stealing the idea of Jack from Cultaholic here, but he said that because a lot of the eras follow what was trendy a couple of years ago, and like the Attitude Era stole from like Jerry Springer and stuff like that. Whereas this era should be the dramatic era where it's more cinematically shot matches and stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff like Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, etc. was popular a couple of years ago, and that should be what WWE is now, but they haven't really. Lucha Underground tried that, but they never really got anywhere with it.
No.
But that's what it should
They
be.
didn't
More
really-
matches like that.
Lucha Underground didn't really have the budget or the scale WWE had.
I think if they're gonna continue to do stuff like, hopefully this is what the Funhouse match will be like tonight, but if they're gonna continue to do stuff like the Boneyard match and shoot it like that, I think they should. I think they should keep it for special occasions and only certain pay-per-views.
Once in a blue moon, maybe.
Yeah, but I think they should definitely do stuff like this because, I mean, look, I'm not discounting Rob, who said on social media that he, quote, felt it was like a cheap horror movie. He's, that's fair.
You can tell his opinion, obviously.
That way, but I totally disagree. It didn't feel cheap at all. It felt expensive and it looked well made. And
Yeah.
I think
As good as it was, I do see his point, and on the other side of the coin, I would like to see a competitive match between these two at some point, rather than like a stage like film.
I think that's the end of it. I think
would like to think, to be honest, I think if The Undertaker ended his legacy like that and just rode off into the night and that was that, I'd almost be happy with that.
That would be it. I think it's so popular, and you on about why haven't WWE WWE done this for a while. I think WWE always seem to pull it out when the back's firmly against the wall.
Yeah.
I think the only danger with that is WWE will see something and go, "Oh, the fans really like that." And I know, Wayne, you've just said it should only come out on special occasions or special matches or pay-per-views, different special pay-per-views. I think the danger is WWE might see it as, "Oh, the fans like this, we should do it all of the time," and then they'll just exhaust it, so we don't want to see it anymore.
That's the thing. Like if they desensitize us to things of that nature, it can, it's like, I mean, how do you follow something like that? And then when they find something that they can follow it with, again, if it gets beaten to a pulp, and then it's like, what do you do next? Where do you get the next level?
First of all, how do you follow something like that? You follow it with a Firefly Funhouse match. And
do you think that'll open tonight? No,
I hope it will. I hope it will close the event. I hope it is.
I don't think it will, though. I think Lesnar McIntyre's, to me, is nailed on main event.
I kind of think, if I was betting on anything, I kind of think that Lesnar McIntyre will open the event.
Do you think so?
I have a funny feeling it will, and I have a funny feeling that John Cena, Bray Wyatt will close.
Yeah.
Because it'll be separate from the action in the ring.
Yeah. I think one match that could close, and Lucas touched on this last week, that Charlotte's been lobbying all year for a Rumble win and then her WrestleMania moment. I think there's a danger that match could close.
On Wikipedia, it's got that as the headline match, so that might be the case.
Well,
it depends. The only way I can see the Firefly Funhouse match not being the last match, because last night, from what happened, it seemed to make total sense to do with continuity. That they told you all about the card, and then it was almost like an interim. There was almost like a pause in the whole thing, and they just sort of slowly gave you that Boneyard match. I think the only way I see the Firefly Funhouse match not being the last one is if there's some kind of,
like, the break in the middle.
If it's like an interruption, if suddenly the screen goes dark and it's like, we interrupt your regularly scheduled program, and suddenly like someone has taken over the feed, and I think that's the only way in terms of continuity that might work.
Could they not do it like Goldust Roddy Piper, where they sort of where Goldust and Roddy Piper left the arena?
Actually, that's a good point. They have done that in the past, haven't they?
Other stuff went on, and then later in the night they came back and finished the match off.
They could, potentially they could. I don't know what the setup is, because I noticed that there was a fairly closed set for the Performance Center. So the cameras, they were in kind of certain places. You never sort of saw the fourth wall. And at most normal pay-per-views, you see all four sides of the ring. At this pay-per-view, you only saw three. So you had a kind of a wall there that you never saw behind. And I have a funny feeling that behind that wall was effectively just a big space with a load of other rings, that they've effectively just kind of closed off a corner of the Performance Center. So I don't know, unless what they do is they tilt it so that actually then that closed off corner is the Funhouse, and suddenly that's what's going.
What is a Firefly Funhouse match, though?
I hope it's basically Pat Sharp's Funhouse, but with Bray Wyatt instead of Pat Sharp, and John Cena has to do the obstacle course, and he's like, "Come on, do it."
Do we get the go-karts and the girls,
Yeah, and he has to collect the foot and it goes ding every time they get them,
Because
unfortunately, I can give a little bit of a spoil here. Neither Pat Sharp or Melanie and Martina were up there yet at the Funhouse holiday retreat in Florida for this one.
Oh, well, never mind then. Bye.
I'll tell you something though. I would love to see I kind of figure the best way I can think of. Has anyone here played Arkham City, the video game?
Yeah.
So the Joker is in the he's in the smelting factory, and you have to go to the smelting factory to get a hold of the Joker, where he's been holed up since Arkham Asylum, and that's the Joker's kingdom. And I kind of see it like that. I see the
like a big, massive clown sort of.
Yeah, like a Joker character.
You didn't see Birds of Prey, did you, Wayne? But there's a scene at the end of that film where it's a similar setup. Where it's like a big fun house where Harley Quinn and the Joker hang out when they're not doing stuff, and it's that kind of setup. So yeah, you could be right. Yeah, definitely.
But Seth Rollins has already broke into the funhouse and set it on fire. So it's obviously easy to break into.
This is the thing, because that kind of took away that it's all in his head sort of thing. It's only his thing, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope it's got lots of good fun. It's got loads of like cartoony violence in it.
But yeah, I don't think it'll close the night, because I think to have two of the cinematic matches close each night is a bit repetitive. I know they're going to be totally different, and Neil, I agree. I think this match tonight's going to have much more of a cartoon vibe.
I would like to think so. I think it would be very cool if like Husky and Rambling Rabbit and the Witch and the Boss were in some way included. Whether they're like a guy dressed like a child dressed like Rambling Rabbit or something, but whether they were all included in.
I said for Bo Dallas to interfere.
Bo Dallas, yes. He could be like his like little sidekick.
Because it's obviously his brother. Or have Sister Abigail actually debut, rather than just
that would be amazing.
Rather than just brain drag.
That's what it was. That was Sister Abigail versus the Demon. Oh, the Demon could be in it. Finn Balor could come back as the Demon.
They could start the match with Bray and John Cena, and John Cena knocks Bray through the canvas of the ring, and then he's like becomes the Fiend, and it like pre-recorded to go to a different segment.
Yeah.
They could
I'm kind of holding out for a Dan Spivey. Danny Spivey cameo, you know, like as when someone opens a box expecting Mercy the Buzzard and they get actual Waylon Mercy.
Don't forget though, right? Don't forget, WrestleMania is in Hollywood next year, and that would be phenomenal if it was like, you know,
a lot of these sort of things, yeah.
Big Hollywood spectacular.
Yeah, I know. WWE, I think it was either this morning or last night, removed an interview from their website of John Cena building up this match.
Okay.
They took it off because John Cena referred to to Bray Wyatt or to the Fiend as Husky Harris in a mask.
Yeah, that was a bit odd. Yeah, it took away from it a little bit. I thought.
But
that made it too similar to the Undertaker and AJ Styles. It's like, I know who you are, really, sort of thing. But
yeah.
The Fiend is Bray Wyatt is.
And I think that. Sorry.
I was going to say the cameos I would like is, like you said, Bo Dallas, but also what's his name, IRS. Like you said, Waylon Mercy. Maybe somebody from like Bull Buchanan or somebody from John Cena's like past. And even somebody totally
sitting in the corner.
Yeah, or even like what's his name, the Boogeyman. Why not have the Boogeyman in there?
Yeah. Well, actually, the Boogeyman was retweeting a lot of Bray's stuff recently.
And he did a react to one of his matches at WrestleMania, which was weird.
Yeah.
So there's a chance he come back.
The thing is, though, obviously the Boneyard match yesterday had a potential for a couple of comebacks. Like I said, Kane, but then thinking about it, Kane's a mayor and he'll be held up in the pandemic. What a way to lose the next election if you just bugger off from your constituency to go have a nice wrestling match in a graveyard.
He's going nowhere outside Texas.
Yeah. Guys, stay at home, stay safe. I'm just going to help my brother bury someone alive.
I want to assure you people that I am here to help you during the crisis. Get that out of the mayor's office. Oh, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, but I think the Firefly Funhouse match, because none of us really know what it is or where it could go, Whether it's starting in the arena, going to different places. But this is the match where if they're going to have interferences or people make returns, even if it's just small cameos, you know what I mean?
I think so. I hope so. I credit as well. I think that you could spoil it for yourself and try and find out stuff online, and it's all rumor and conjecture. But I think actually I credit people for sort of keeping a lot of it under wraps and
I've done a good job.
Well, I was saying to Neale before you guys jumped on and before we start recording, I don't know how true this is, but with it being pre-recorded this year, WWE actually recorded multiple endings to each match, just in case the resultant ending was somehow leaked. Then they had
what is it? RuPaul's Drag Race? What's going on?
Yeah, so they had other footage they could put in so if someone tried to spoil it and give it to like a dirt sheet or give it to Dave Meltzer, they could just change it up and it totally different. And
they did say as well that they'd made releasing information pretty much a fireable offence.
Wow!
Within the company, so that's a legitimate dictator as well.
I'd like to see a WWE Wrestlemania blooper reel.
Absolutely.
That'd be a good one. It's going versus Botchamania sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, they tried that, didn't they, with
Botch Club. Oh, God,
Botch
that was
Club.
Cringe.
Yeah.
That was really cringe-worthy, though, like kind of point out their own mistakes.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. I'd love to see something like that, a making of. Like, for example, the matches themselves. Were the matches held live? So, from the point of view of
recorded as live, sort of thing,
whatnot, was it live? Did they have a run through? Did they then do another match 10 minutes or 2 minutes after that? Or did they stop, reset the whole thing, and wait an hour and bring someone else in? And I would love to know how it was filmed, and I would love to know, did they... Oh, stop. We have to restart. We fucked that ending up. Let's do it again.
I think it's probably the latter. I think because obviously the Kabuki Warriors wear face paint and that'll obviously run. I think they've probably done the match, gone away and then came back. But I don't know. I think each match might have been different because the Uso spot where he took a bump from the top of the ladder to the floor outside, there's no way he's actually taking that bump. And you didn't see it on camera. No. You just saw him fall to the floor, and then the camera panned to him lying down.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably camera trickery, and he's just jumped down and then like lay on the floor.
Actually, one thing you say in terms of camera trickery, which definitely wasn't, and I know, Liam, that you need to get yourself to bed to prepare. So I know that you need to prepare for tonight's Mania and get yourself a good sleep. So I don't want to keep people, but Kevin Owens jumping through the Spanish announce table on top of Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
I very much loved that move, and I love the fact that like they actually made something of that. They actually found a use for the set pieces. That was very cool.
Absolutely.
Sometimes they do re-record spots if it's pre-recorded, like when I've watched NXT at download. They did a spot last year where it was Walter powerbombed, I think it was Tyler Bate, onto a ring post, and he fluffed up a little bit, so they said, do it again. And obviously in the edit they've just cut out the bit where he's done it first, and they just cut to the perfect one, Carry on, sorry.
No, I was just curious as to whether, like, if they were doing something like that where Owens would be like, yeah, let's just pause, let's just give me about 5 minutes to get on top of the set here, or like...
He climbed it quite quickly, though.
I know. And depending on how much of a professional the wrestler was, like, if you imagine Becky Lynch and she's like, I don't really think I sold that fall enough. Could we try that again? Could we reset?
One slight thing is the camera angle from it was great, but you could see that Owens barely touched Rollins.
Yeah.
Was it meant to be a senton? I think it was meant to be a senton, or was it meant to be an elbow drop? Because from the camera angle it'd give you, it sort of just looked like he landed alongside. And what I would have liked is that camera angle of him jumping off, which they kept all the way down. I would have liked the camera angle of that when I'm jumping off, and then it cut to a close up as he's hitting him, to make the impact seem more. And on that match, Rollins did not pull any of those chair shots.
No, he didn't. Like,
he was just going for those chair shots.
I mean,
that was a brilliant match. I mean, I don't think we dug into this when we.
No, we
dug into this yet.
No,
not yet.
No, I was disappointed when it ended in DQ. Because I thought that was going to be the end of it. I was like, you can't end that match like this. Because it's been a long feud that could have ended multiple times.
Yeah.
I mean, from what you mentioned there about the dive through the table and I mean, I think it was initially, as you say, meant to be a senton, but he tried to salvage, like when he sort of figured out where he was going to land, he tried to salvage it by trying to go for an elbow drop halfway down, you know. But
I mean, it looked good. I'm not taking anything away from either of those guys. That was a great spot.
It was absolutely phenomenal. I mean,
out of the matches that were in the arena in ring, probably spot of the night, I think.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah.
Because sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say because the ladder match was great, but it didn't have like loads of high spots.
Yes.
Though the one high spot was Morrison tightrope and across the top rope. That was great.
Yes.
But yeah, Owens jumping off. It's given him a WrestleMania moment. It was great.
Definitely.
Again, I think it says a lot about the lack of a crowd. You know, I know, Liam, you weren't massively fond of it. The ending for Becky's match would have been great if there were people there, because she could have really sold it to the point that like people wouldn't have seen that coming. So I think some moments could have been real WrestleMania moments and probably were scripted in that way.
Yeah, like the ending of the tag match.
Yes.
Well, the triple threat, that would have got a better crowd reaction. Although saying that, if we could have had a crowd, it would have meant the pandemic wasn't a thing, which would have meant it was an actual tag match, so the ending would have probably been different.
I mean, presumably they would have, they would have still been the same winners. I think the only ending that has been affected by current events is Roman Reigns not being there to win the Universal Championship.
Yeah.
Do you guys think the Boneyard match would have been shot the same if it was a crowded arena?
No, not in the slightest. Yeah, I think mostly,
Because I think, if personally, like if I'd paid, because it's thousands of pounds to get to WrestleMania, thousands of dollars, whatever. If you're there, to me, as a fan, if I was paying to go to WrestleMania, Undertaker versus AJ Styles would have been one of the matches that excited me.
Yes.
So if I paid thousands of pounds and that was one of the matches I was looking forward to, and then I had to sit and watch it on a screen, I would have felt a bit cheated.
I'll tell you what I think happened with Undertaker from everything I've seen the last couple of weeks. Undertaker, I don't think he's very well. And I think that segment, that trailer about the exclusive limited series that's coming out on the network about his health, that's streaming tonight after this version of WrestleMania, they're about to do a series. I think that's going to tell a lot of things about how sick Undertaker is in terms of how old he is and how many knocks he's taken. I think Undertaker was the first person to say, I will not do WrestleMania. I will not go near anyone. I barely want to do my own match. I'm not coming near an arena. And I think straight away they went, you're such a big draw, as you say, Liam. It's not WrestleMania without The Undertaker, especially when he's scheduled to be on the card. I think that's why they did what they did. And I think, if there had been a full arena, for your money back almost, if you hadn't have got that entrance. But as far as the Boneyard match, it was 100%. It was great. It was well done and it was lovely. But it was only done because of current events. They had to think with their back against the wall. And I reckon Undertaker was the first person to go, listen, I'll tell you now, I will not be in a ring. I will not be interacting with people.
Because Undertaker at this point, and it's been well publicised, handpicks his opponents.
Yes. Yes.
So he's obviously choosing guys he trusts, or guys he rates, and guys he wants to work. And obviously, I think I totally understand where you're coming from, Wayne. But I think he probably would have went in there and had a 10-minute match with Styles. And I think if it was a live crowd, I think it would have just been a bog standard. Well, not bog standard, but I think it would have just been a normal buried alive match.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
I think that's what we're using the word boneyard to cover the words buried alive because that implies murder, doesn't it? So
Yeah, but I think if
Kill him. No.
I think if it was in the arena, it would have been a dug grave at the top of the ramp like the old days.
Yeah. I think
It would have been
like the Mankind match.
Yeah, they would have gotten the stipulation in. They would have found a way to do it. They've done it before. It would have been a very sort of gimmicky throwback to The Undertaker defending his career. But the trailer that I saw on The Undertaker for that limited series, it kind of made me, especially when Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels were talking about the fact that The Undertaker doesn't appear to realize when enough is enough. It gave impression that Undertaker is on borrowed time, and that series will maybe talk a lot about stuff that we just don't realize how much he's been struggling
in recent years as well. Because obviously when he was like the almost like the 2010s, like as the Dead Man, he never ever posted on social media. And recently he's been posting pictures with his family, he's been posting pictures doing different events, posting pictures hugging people. It's almost as if he's sort of in recent years it feels like he's only been wheeled out for Saudi shows.
Yeah.
And it looks like they could potentially be coming to an end because Saudi Arabia have cancelled the WWE network.
Wow.
In their country.
I did not know that. Any particular reason?
I didn't. I read it. It was a few weeks back. I'll have to find the link and I'll have to send it to you. But yeah. It's they don't show the network in Saudi Arabia anymore. Apparently.
I mean, to be honest with you, I know that there's been rumblings about the WWE network being overhauled completely as well because of Vince, because of something that Vince McMahon apparently doesn't have faith in it anymore.
That's a shame. That's a shame. It's a nice service. It's effectively the Netflix of WWE. You know, it's I don't find it a bad service at all.
Yeah.
No.
And it's not just that as well, because he's selling different parts of the network or different archives of matches to different streaming services.
I mean, there's bits of last year's Wrestlemania up on I think it's like $2.99 per match on Amazon Prime.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
That came out of the blue a little bit. I don't know. I mean, when I was searching through things to sort of watch the first week after everything stopped in the UK, I was like, thought, right, I better have a look through what's on here. And that's when I found the original version of Glow on there under original Ladies of Wrestling, and all the rest of it. But it was like buried in amongst that was like WrestleMania 35, and then like it had the full price of it, the full priced full show, and then matches at $2.99 a pop.
So that's Vince. He's selling different archives to different streaming services
to pay for the XFL.
Probably.
That's
it seem that way,
yeah.
Yeah.
What? Yes.
Quickly, non-WWE related. What do you guys think of Kylie Ray returning to wrestling and signing a long-term deal with Impact?
She's been popping up on there like as a per appearance thing for a while. I mean, good for her that she's like coming back in that. I mean, I don't know what. I mean, I don't think anyone really knows what it was to that sort of stopped her.
She just wanted to take time away from the sport. Apparently, I think it was to do with her own health, personal issues. So she wanted to take time away from the sport. So she asked AEW for her release, and they kindly granted her it. But she signed a new long-term deal with Impact.
That's weird, that. Yeah.
Good
And
for her.
and-
I hope she.
And a tag team we thought we'd never see because, of course, a couple of years ago they were the same person. Suicide and Manic teamed up. And of course,
TNA one night only,
Suicide became Manic a couple of years ago because you can't push a wrestler who's called Suicide.
Yes.
Tell an action figure called Suicide.
Yeah.
I noticed Dave Penza there sort of broke the fourth wall on that one quite a few times. One time when he was on commentary, saying, "You know how I know it's how I know that there was more than one suicide because I had 3 of them on my podcast." Stuff like that when he was on commentary. I think I was wondering who thought that putting Dave Penza on commentary was.
Yeah. The thing is, T.J. Perkins should just wrestle as T.J. Perkins.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wonder who's under the Suicide mask now, though.
Could quite possibly be Jonathan Gresham, wasn't it? He was doing it last time I saw, but then again that was before Jonathan Gresham reunited with Chris Brooks to do the other version of CCK.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's gone back there. Do you know who it was, Neil?
I'm not really sure. I thought it might. Well, because I was trying to think who used to do it. Because it was one point, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. I was going to say it wasn't a Christopher Daniels. No, it wasn't.
It was.
He did a couple of times, yeah.
Christopher Daniels, Kazarian even did it.
Yeah, that's who I'm thinking of. Kazarian.
Don't believe the lies. Don't believe.
And then it's me. Yeah. This is why I'm so tired. I've been.
This is exactly it. This is what I've been. You know, you can't handle it both ends.
Have you ever seen me and Suicide in the same room?
Exactly.
No.
And if he did, he'd be played by someone else that night, so it still doesn't discredit you.
Yeah. No. It's to be fair, it's a weird one because obviously it was a character TNA came up with for their video game.
Yeah.
And it got over in the video game, so they made him a real character. The only downfall is each wrestler, and when I've found this out myself whilst portraying Suicide, obviously, each wrestler who takes on the moniker and the gimmick can't really put their own twist on it because you've got to have the same mannerisms as the guy who went before you. You've got to use the same move set. And because they
like
don't want it to be
clown, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't want it to be blatantly.
Yeah,
they don't want it to be blatantly obvious that it's a different person portraying the character. So you've got to have the same mannerisms, the same move set. But a guy of my talent, Wayne, I find it absolutely no problem.
I mean, I would have thought that. I would have suspected. And by the way, Neil, if you count Dink, there were 4 clowns.
Clowns? Well, there was more than that because didn't he have like a team of like 4 small clowns, and then there was Matt Bourne, and then there was 2 other doinks after, and then if you count Chris Jericho, there was another one.
But wasn't there a team?
You've also got Men on a Mission in the Bushwhackers.
Wasn't there a team doink at Survivor Series once?
Yeah, where they all had the makeup on. Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird.
But then one point, Chris Jericho was doink for one match. And Shawn Michaels saw him when he was absolutely high and was like, "Oh, mate, terrible that they're making you do doink." He was like under the impression that that's the gimmick that they'd give him in WWF. They're like, "Oh, mate, no, they're not giving you that." He's like, "No, it's just for this one." He went, "Oh, it's terrible."
Pure for research purposes.
Jericho, man of many talents, portrayed Sin Cara in the crowd anyway.
Yes. There's whole lists on YouTube of like when the other wrestlers have portrayed other.
Yeah. Or greatest
with Sting once.
Or greatest wrestlers unmasked. I remember watching that top 10 video. I'm sure number 2 was the Calgary Kid being unmasked as the Miz. How did that make it to number 2? And then I'm sure like number 3 or 4 was when CM Punk got unmasked in it, but it was always obvious it was CM Punk.
Yeah,
because
one that was never on TV was Juan Cena, where he was John Cena but with a mask.
Yeah. He did that on a live tour of Mexico.
Yeah, Juan Cena. Weren't they going to have that on TV because he got fired? So he's like, no, I am
Well,
not John Cena, I am one Cena.
It was the whole, they were going to do it like, can you remember when they booked Mr. America in a feud against
Yes.
I'm not
Vince?
Hulk Hogan, brother.
Yeah. So that was apparently the idea they had for Juan Cena, where during his match he would lift the mask up and do the whole shh, which is, you know, so cheesy and so obvious. But yeah, luckily they didn't run with that idea.
I'm sure Brian Pillman did that as
image in the group chat now, just so everyone can see one Cena in
Juan
the flesh there.
Only one man ever played Golga, and he carried Eric Cartman to the ring, and he was my hero.
John Tenter.
But for me, the greatest unmasking of all time was when the Wall unmasked the Shockmaster.
Oh, do you know?
Yeah, that's true. Good old Uncle Fred there, yeah.
He got his own action figure out. It took 20 years, but he got his own action figure.
Yeah. I don't know whether you guys have heard, but I heard rumors that apparently Del Rio has mended bridges with WWE and is in talks again to re-sign with them.
Has he run out of money already? He set up his own promotion in Mexico. It was him, Chavo, and MVP set up their own promotion in Mexico.
Well, MVP's buggered off back to WWE, hasn't he?
And also, that could be the end of that then, couldn't it?
And Chavo's doing what Chavo does.
He just flips and flops, doesn't he, Chavo? So.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently
He doesn't know whether he's coming or going.
Apparently Alberto is in talks with WWE again. We might see a League of Nations reunion.
No, thank you.
No.
On that note, I really do have to get on with reading this interview with Becky Lynch, which is featured in WWE Kids.
And I'm gonna drink some Coca-Cola and go to sleep.
WrestleMania tonight. WWE Kids.
I'm going to read this
review of this
annual from 10 years ago to research WWE.
What's in that? Is it good? What's in it?
It's actually not bad. I mean, it's obviously aimed at kids, but it's basically a history of WrestleMania up to 25.
Well, as you will have seen, Neale. As you will have seen, I obviously reviewed this magazine in another video. Sorry about that.
Hey, it's alright, dude.
You do the same, obviously, and review that.
Yeah.
Yeah.